Welcome friends to a video about Transformers Prime. This was a show that blew my mind as a kid. And then I soured on it for a little bit, but on a rewatch, I appreciated it once more. I remember there being so much hype. It felt like they took G1, Bayformers, other shows, and then made a perfect concoction that was this aligned continuity. The aligned continuity was basically taking a bunch of books, games, cartoons, movies, and putting them all in one universe. One continuity, and it was a kind of a cool idea, but for whatever reason it doesn't seem to really line up all that well. If there's any real connections between this show and other aligned continuity stuff, it's really in the books Exodus, Exiles, and Retribution. Oh yeah, I'm talking about spoilers, so go watch the show, come back or something. It's good. That's all you need to know. I want to focus on the animation first. It was really good for the time. It's super impressive for TV CGI animation, and it still holds up today for the most part. There's so many great fight scenes, like Prime versus Megatron. Here it starts off a bit awkward. It's just like, no. But then they shoot at each other and the fight gets really intense. Like all of a sudden the choreography and the animation is just getting better and better by the millisecond. And you have the Dark Energon volcano in the background illuminating the scene. I like this moment when Optimus spins his tires in Megatron's face. You know, there's not a lot of creative transformation fight moments, but as far as martial arts choreography and stuff like that, the show's fight scenes are really good. I don't know if you remember the fight with Megatron and the Insecticon. There's one shot I keep replaying vividly. Look at that kick. Wow. See how he jumps into the air and kicks? The weight behind it. It gives it so much more power. And don't forget the Dark Star Saber fights. They were like spamming their devil triggers. It was so epic. Also, yeah, one more fight scene. Magnus and Wheeljack versus Predaking. I also want to talk about the camera movements too. TFP doesn't really keep the camera still. They do a lot of sweeping around and moving the camera. Even in like just the normal, episodes, they get creative with the camera movements in this show. And I think that goes to how they want to translate the movies to the small screen. I feel like one of the animators just goes ham with the character movements. Because, sometimes the show, they have the kind of a bit more floaty and drifty, kind of animation that you see in a lot of stuff like Clone Wars. But then you have like moments like this where the characters are like moving like very snappily. It's kind of nice to see. It just makes it feel like very alive, especially when it comes to Starscream. The expressiveness makes him incredibly fun to watch.
Why is it that every time I return to my old stomping grounds, I find an Autobot roaming the halls?
And it helped that you had a great cast of voice actors like Frank Welker and Peter Cullen. I will say the show will introduce and shut down characters, stories, and concepts. I believe this is mostly due to constraints on resources and time. So this isn't really something the show can do much about, but it's kind of disappointing when they introduce a concept like Project Predacon and then go Control-Z.
Kaboom!
I think we can all agree the most disappointing case of this is Dreadwing. They build him up to have a grand defection. He does give Prime the Forge so they could make anything they can think of. That's nice, but it's one of the most dumbfounding moments in the entire show when Megatron kills Dreadwing instead of Starscream. It's especially strange because there's a similar moment between Starscream and Shockwave in Season 3, and Megatron's like, well, he thought real fast with Dreadwing. But by far the funniest example is Ultra Magnus. After one battle in the movie, Ultra Magnus never speaks again. He's just on a gurney. even at the end, it just looks so weird that everyone's having this sad moment and he's back there on this slab. The three main human characters, Jack, Miko, and Raph, to me, they sort of fit into the three types of audience members that would watch this show. Raph's the one who's in awe of the robots, Miko loves the robo battles, and Jack's the skeptic who comes around. Raph will prove himself to be a proud inventor, helping to locate Ratchet before the final battle. Miko becomes the first human wrecker. Her story does feel like there's some steps missing from Adrenaline Junkie to Wrecker. Jack stood out to me on a rewatch. He originally wants nothing to do with an alien civil war before joining up and realizing his potential as the first human to go to Cybertron and save Optimus Prime. The best character in this show is Fowler.
I don't care if Abraham Lincoln's back. We have to contain the situation before we all wind up on the 11 o'clock news.
And then there's the main human villain, Mech, led by Silas, which is probably the best human menace I can think of in any Transformers cartoon. He didn't feel intrusive, it felt like he was naturally a part of the show, and they were kind of a threat. I also think that this is the best take on Nemesis Prime I've ever seen. A soulless Optimus Prime. All the power, but none of the morality. Anyways, the Autobots. The Autobots are the last stand in this civil war. The conflicts these characters go through emphasize the cost of that war. And within this group, Optimus is the shining light of nobility.
We must never lose sight of the fact that upon this earth, we are Titans, and such power must be used wisely.
He embodies morality, keeping his head above water. He is the rock in their world, and his composure is a part of that.
Optimus, you want to see something funny?
No?
Yes, he's more stoic, but that's not the same as emotionless. His conflicts are kept inside, shown mainly through subtle facial reactions and slight inflections in tone.
But the Autobots are their guardians, Ratchet. Would it hurt to learn more of Earth by helping our young friends with their schoolwork?
You'll know when he's angry. And I think that's a valid take on Optimus, and a valid take on a leader. Of course, I'd love to see the stoic nature or composure explored as part of Prime's personality, maybe how it affects him, but I have changed my mind on how I feel about Optimus. I will say it's so odd that they randomly bring up the idea that Optimus might not kill Megatron. It's like, I must end this war, but I miss my friend. And the show is so inconsistent with this because in episode 5, Optimus is like,
but I might derail its objective by removing its head.
And then at the end of season 1,
Megatron must be destroyed.
was that a lesson you really needed to learn? I guess you could say he's willing to do what it takes as the show goes on. Like at the beginning, he has a bit more reservation about doing certain things, and then you cut to the end of season 2, and he's making the biggest and boldest choice. But I do think he is a well-developed character. Same goes for Bumblebee, Bulkhead, RC, and Ratchet. They're well-written characters exploring the effects of losing a part of you, losing your purpose, losing someone you care about, and losing hope that the fight matters. With Wheeljack, we get to see how war makes a loner. And then Ultra Magnus is comfortable within protocols and command structures, and we get to see how he kind of has to break out of that.
When we spoke earlier, what could be greater than an army?
A human concept. Family.
Smokescreen is young and born into the war, and he has to learn more about the seriousness of his actions and to fight for something bigger than himself.
Then stop trying to be a hero and start being an Autobot.
And when it mattered, he sacrificed glory for the future to have a chance.
I did what I felt was right.
and your instincts have again proven to be quite sound.
Bulkhead overcame his insecurity. RC helped Miko after her loss.
It's rough when someone you care about gets hurt. Closing yourself off from feeling won't help anyone.
And helped Wheeljack reconnect.
Don't push Bulkhead away. If something happened to him, you'd never forgive yourself.
Ratchet humbled himself about humans and even volunteered himself to stay on Earth after his homesickness throughout the end of Season 2 to the end of Season 3. So I thought the Autobots were actually done a lot better than I initially gave them credit for. On the flip side, we got some really fun Decepticons here. Shockwave, Soundwave, Knockout, Breakdown, Arachnid, Dreadwing, Skyquake. And as a kid, they were all super cool or funny or silly or whatever. Like, I really liked this cast of Decepticons and how many new characters they really brought into this show, or new takes on previous characters that they brought in. And it's kind of funny to me that the Autobots have this, like, you know, growing and understanding and, you know, kind of arc there, and the Decepticons have a real sitcom vibe. Starscream is brilliantly written as this ambitious and arrogant a-hole coming to the realization that he's not all that. It's kind of the natural conclusion or end point or whatever of G1 Starscream, where you have him as a more comedic character to bring some levity, and he kind of thinks he's so much more than he actually is, and he realizes that he's not. I know that there are Starscreams that are more powerful, but I just kind of like the idea that you have this goober of a Starscream. And Megatron, what a monster of a bad guy. And again, on the rewatch, this Megatron stood out to me as pretty definitive as far as takes on the character go. He encapsulates the warlord in all of his hubris and theatricality.
Well, well. It seems the blood of Unicron I've been seeking is not out there, but rather right here.
I do have to say that there is a read of this show where it's just about Megatron getting over his dark energon addiction.
No! Not your spark chamber! You do not know what it will do!
And have thus lost my taste.
There's about 70-ish episodes in a movie. I think the first season does a lot to ease you in, and then they really cement it with the Unicron arc. The second season felt like things are kicking into high gear. It's like they took the playground that was the first season and threw a bunch of toys, because it's all about finding relics and all this other stuff. The third season ranges from being pretty tight to being kind of rushed, but it has a lot of the best animation, the best scenes, the coolest stuff. A lot of stuff wraps up quite nicely, give or take a few things. Alright, let's go over some of my favorite episodes or episode arcs. Darkness Rising.
I chose my side.
A great miniseries pilot that introduces everyone very well. Scrap Heap.
Look what I found!
We're busy!
This is a fun romp with the Scraplets. I really enjoy it as a break from the Decepticons, mainly focusing on the bots and the humans. Stronger, faster, Ratchet on steroids. Hilarious, and the moment he goes off on Prime is iconic.
For such a big, strong bot, you're soft. You didn't pound Megatron into scrap when you had the chance! Many chances, in fact!
Triage. I love the Sunset and a Wheeljack Ratchet team-up like the original G1 show. And I love the sunset and the way they lit this episode. I just really like it. One shall fall, one shall rise.
The power of the Matrix will light our darkest hour. No!
Not my favorite take on Unicron, but they committed to the bit, and I was able to buy into all of it. So they took what I think is a ridiculous idea that Unicron is the Earth, and they pulled it off and made me believe it. You also have the fun backstory scene with Ratchet going over the history of Orion Pax and Megatronus. And then at the very end, you have the plot twist of Optimus losing his memories. It's just brilliant. Orion Pax. This is really the only time we get to experience who Orion Pax was before Transformers 1. We have a well-meaning and naive data clerk sort of relearning to become Optimus Prime while Jack goes to Cybertron. First time we get to see that planet up close. I loved how both of these characters kind of got some major growth. Operation Bumblebee.
Bumblebee's T-Cog isn't damaged. It's missing.
Bumblebee isn't featured as a main character very often, but here we get to see him struggle with a lot of the emotions he might have had when he lost his voice, his struggle, losing his transformation cog, and we get a glimpse into Ratchet's guilt. I just thought this was a great episode. Plus, you got some fun shenanigans with Starscream and Silas, the human factor. I think this was a cathartic episode because Silas, after all of his troublemaking, he eventually gets his just desserts because he's kind of groveling to Megatron the same way Megatron groveled to Unicron, and you kind of get to see a similar dynamic of someone who wants to be part of what he perceives to be Titans be told, nah, Patch. This was a great episode because it's basically Mystery Science Theater with Frank Welker and Steve Blum, and they bounce off each other so well for like 20 minutes, and I really enjoy it. And it makes for some fun commentary.
I do transform with an exceptional sense of style. I said that aloud, didn't I?
While advancing the plot, while doing a lot of stuff, it just feels like a fun recap episode. Darkest Hour. An explosive finale. This stuck with me. I don't know how long it actually was, but it felt like forever between this episode and the moment Optimus returns. It just stuck with me. I wonder if this is what, you know, Optimus dying in the 86 movie felt like to everyone. Like, you know, it felt like that to me. Thirst. A hilarious zombie episode with Starscream and Knockout getting into all sorts of hijinks. Evolution. The fight between Predaking, Ultra Magnus, and Wheeljack is top tier. Deadlock. Still one of the best and most satisfying finale episodes of a show I've seen, especially in regards to Ratchet and Bumblebee, with B getting his revenge on the Khan who stole his voice.
You took my voice. You will never rob anyone of anything ever again.
That's just, again, a top tier moment in Transformers storytelling. And those are some of my favorite episodes in no particular order. It's more episodic, so it's a bit hard to see like which one is better than the other one. It's not as cut and dry, but those I think encapsulate a lot of my favorite moments from the show. And then we get the movie. It's a fine epilogue, but it's really the last 5 minutes that are anything really all that special. Optimus' speech is one of the most iconic moments in TF history. I've said that so many times.
But while this may very well mark the end of the Age of Primes, leadership can be earned with or without the Matrix. And in my view, you have each acted as a Prime.
But, you know, just know that don't come in expecting, you know, a huge sea change. It is just a little bit more of a continuation to wrap up a little bit of what the finale in the show did not. Kind of. Sort of. Transformers Prime was a great show, and it would be the type of show that I'd show someone if they want to experience Transformers storytelling for the first time. The show has the bells and whistles of the movies, and it gives you a taste of the stories and the lore of the Transformers universe. And given the fact that they had all those constraints, I think they did a pretty good job. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.